What is Inside Tourette's? Inside Tourette's is not real, you guys. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, Ticking Together. As always, the goal of this channel is to provide education about and to raise awareness as to what it's like living with Tourette syndrome. In today's video, boy oh boy, do I have some news for you guys. Anytime the topic of Tourette's comes into the mainstream media or Hollywood, I jump on that and I talk about it. And this time, it is a doozy. I got rice. I've seen a few other content creators with Tourette's talk about this already. Life's a Twitch Emma did a really good short on this, so credit to her mainly for the video idea. But I wanted to talk about this too because I've been reading about it for the past few days and I'm just like, oh my good Lord in heaven, what the actual heck. If you guys watch my channel here, you would know that the goal I have on this channel, which I say at the beginning of every one of my videos, is to advocate and educate about Tourette syndrome. I have lived with Tourette syndrome my whole life, but I was diagnosed when I was 12, so 15 years ago now. I got rice, and it has been a long journey of living with tics and figuring out how to navigate the world of Tourette's in a way which is not like brutal. Because let me just say, living with Tourette's is not easy. It's not fun, it's not cute, it's not quirky, it really does suck. But anyway, talking about what this video is about, recently there was a podcast featuring Robbie Williams. And I, to be honest, never really knew who Robbie Williams was, but apparently he is a singer celebrity from the UK. And to fill you guys in, to give you the gist of things, he was on an ADHD podcast because he's been clinically diagnosed with ADHD. Let's just pause this video. I'm gonna insert the clip of what he says.
Realize that I have Tourette's, but they don't come out.
Oh.
So they are, there is intrusive thoughts that happens. And I was just walking down the road the other day and I realized that these intrusive thoughts are inside Tourette's.
Okay, so in that clip, he states that he has inside Tourette's because of his intrusive thoughts and that his Tourette's just really doesn't come out and it's just all inside. And it's so kind of comical because that is not what Tourette's is at all. To be diagnosed with Tourette syndrome, there is a certain criteria that you have to meet. For one, you have to have at least 2 motor tics and 1 vocal tic for over the period of a year before you can be diagnosed. You also have to have tics present before the age of 18, and these tics cannot be caused by anything else, so medication, other disorders, whatever the case. These are the main criteria for having to be diagnosed with Tourette's. And so Robbie Williams says that he has inside Tourette's because of his intrusive thoughts, and none of these things really come out, which is blatantly against what Tourette's is. Because Tourette's does come out. Tourette's are motor and vocal tics which come out. Now, I know on my channel I've also talked about mental tics, but as I've talked about in my previous videos, those are completely different than intrusive thoughts and are not as actively studied. So there's not a lot of science or research behind mental tics, but mental tics are not a single criteria for having Tourette's either. In order, I got rice. I got rice in a bag. In order to have Tourette's, you do have to have those 2 motor tics and 1 vocal tic at least to be diagnosed. So yeah, it's kind of brutal that Robbie Williams goes and says that he has inside Tourette's because that's not a diagnosis. That is not a real thing. And it just adds to the stigma of how misunderstood Tourette's is already. And the crazy thing is, like the thing that's more crazy than the fact that he is saying that he has inside Tourette's are what the media is saying, like all of these journalists and reporters.
Robbie Williams has revealed he's been secretly living with Tourette's syndrome. Despite his legendary career, he struggles with intrusive thoughts, anxiety, and the fear of performing live.
Robbie Williams has admitted for the first time that he has been secretly living with Tourette syndrome. The pop superstar 51 claims his Tourette's are intrusive, with outbursts kept inside.
Okay, wait, I'm editing this right now and realized I forgot to talk about this. The AI news saying he has outbursts inside? What? You guys, that is not... What? An outburst in. Out in. Hello? I'm flabbergasted. Okay, anyways, back to the video. I've screenshotted a few of these news articles, you could say, and the headlines are so clickbaity and the whole thing is just so wrong. E! News says, Robbie Williams on Tourette Syndrome diagnosis. Intrusive thoughts. People.com, Robbie Williams says he has Tourette Syndrome. News.com.au says Robbie Williams reveals he has been living with Tourette Syndrome. The New Zealand Herald says Robbie Williams says he has been living with Inside Tourette's. So many news articles are reporting that Robbie Williams has Tourette's just because in the podcast he briefly mentioned that due to his intrusive thoughts, he has what he thinks or believes to be Inside Tourette's. Now, as soon as I heard this podcast, I was like, okay, I've heard this before. I've heard of Inside Tourette's because I've heard of it in a joking form. Like, Inside Tourette's is not real. But have you guys ever seen that clip from English teacher about the asymptomatic Tourette's girl? I will insert a clip here.
But recently, I was successfully diagnosed with something called asymptomatic Tourette's. It's only self-diagnosable.
I see.
But the whole thing is just giving those vibes. It is the same thing to me. Basically, Robbie Williams saying he has Inside Tourette's is the same equivalent vibe of that Kayla girl saying she has asymptomatic Tourette's, which can only be self-diagnosed. The whole thing is just bonkers and such a slap in the face to those of us who do deal with Tourette's. And another thing I want to say before I get hated on is intrusive thoughts are a huge deal. It sucks to live with intrusive thoughts, but Tourette's isn't necessarily the sole cause of intrusive thoughts, especially if you're not having motor or vocal tics. If you were not experiencing motor and vocal tics, you don't have Tourette's. The fact he is experiencing intrusive thoughts probably constitutes a whole different underlying disorder, such as OCD. That's a big one that deals with intrusive thoughts. And I know because I am diagnosed with OCD and my intrusive thoughts stem from that. I can also sympathize with Robbie Williams because when you have an intrusive thought, it does kind of just pop in your head. And I guess to someone who's not educated, they think, oh, that's kind of similar to Tourette's because it just pops in there, it's unwanted. But tics are genuinely so different. I got rice. Because they are neurons, neurotransmitters misfiring in your brain. It is a neurodevelopmental and neurological disorder. It is completely different than intrusive thoughts. However, my sympathies do go out to anyone who deals with intrusive thoughts, such as Robbie Williams, because clearly he is struggling. And it just sucks that he had to use the term Inside Tourette's because that is not a real thing. And since he has such a widespread fan base and he's such a public figure, people may now start to believe that they also experience Inside Tourette's, which is not real. It's absolutely crazy what news anchors and journalists and reporters will do when they have a story they can run with. Because as I was saying, so many of these articles are saying Robbie Williams has Tourette's and are like running with that, even though he doesn't. And the fact he says his tics don't come out, like it's just, whew, it's a doozy of all doozies. To me, it's just absolutely crazy that these news articles are so clickbaity. But then again, today's society is full of drama, clickbait, wanting to get all of the attention you can. So in that regard, it doesn't surprise me. But then again, it does provide such misunderstandings and misleading information to the general public about what Tourette syndrome really is. If someone hears Robbie Williams on the podcast say that his intrusive thoughts are Tourette's, especially if they're young and impressionable, they might think, oh, I have Tourette's because I also experience intrusive thoughts, and that's just not the case. And again, it just provides such a misunderstanding, and it's really harmful to the stigma that already exists on Tourette syndrome. And the reason, I got rice. I'm friendly. I'm friendly. The reason I'm making this video is to, once again, provide you guys with education, just to let you know invisible Tourette's isn't a thing. But I'm also not discrediting what Robbie Williams goes through because intrusive thoughts are brutal, as I was saying. They just don't equate to Tourette's or Inside Tourette's or whatever the case. Tourette's is such a misunderstood disorder, and as I was saying, anytime something comes out in the media about it, it always seems to be like wrong and providing the wrong information, which is like so annoying because it's such a misunderstood thing. The stigma behind it is always changing. People don't understand Tourette's fundamentally, and unless I sit down and be like, this is what Tourette's is to a stranger, a lot of the time they don't know why I'm blinking really hard or when my neck is jerking. Like, people aren't as educated as they need to be, which is again why I have this channel and why I am so passionate about talking about my Tourette's and advocating about it, because it's just not something that people know about. And if people as famous and as public as Robbie Williams can make a mistake like this, anyone can make a mistake like this. So it's important to note that Tourette's has a diagnostic criteria that you have to meet. I personally don't think it's self-diagnosable because there are so many other types of tic disorders that tics can be caused by. So before you self-diagnose or are wanting to self-diagnose, just be aware that Tourette's is not the only type of tic disorder. And yeah, it's just a whole thing. Robbie Williams, I feel for you, but unfortunately, unless you've been diagnosed with Tourette's and have both motor and vocal tics, like, intrusive thoughts don't constitute a Tourette's diagnosis. But again, they are awful to deal with. No hate, no shame, just trying to educate and do my part. But I think I am going to wrap up the video here. This was mainly educational, but also like a moment, because like, what is Inside Tourette's? Inside Tourette's is not real, you guys. And I just wanted to shed some light on it, provide some education, because you guys know I got your back on all of the Tourette's educational vibes that you need. If you liked this video or if you learned anything, please give it a big thumbs up. I would genuinely appreciate that so much. Leave a comment down below saying hi, telling me what you would like to see in future videos, or letting me know if you've listened to this podcast, what your thoughts are on Inside Tourette's, because golly gee, I think it's bonkers. If you're not already, subscribed to my channel here at Ticcing Together, I would be, I got rice. I just whispered I got rice. I would be so appreciative if you would subscribe to my channel and ring the notification bell to stay tuned to all of my content here. I would appreciate that again so much. You guys truly are the best. I am so grateful for all of you, and I'm just happy to be here, you guys. I love you so much. As always, we are learning together, we're laughing together, we're ticking together. Remember, Inside Tourette's, not real. But if you are struggling, please go see a doctor, neurologist, psychiatrist, psychologist to get the answers you need. Okay guys, bye.